I turned it into an acronym, I Love Life, and I wrote it on a whiteboard just like that. I said, man, ill movement. I love that. And I'll be ill Nicky.
Nothing like stars from a paradise. Don't care, cause there's magic in the air tonight. Pretty girl in my ear, she the rarest type. Heaven on earth is right here tonight. I'm in the dream state. I'm in the dream state.
250,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, 30 plus million streams on Spotify. He is unbelievable. The music is amazing. I cannot wait to dive into the story. We got Ill Nicky. How you doing, brother? All right?
Great intro. Wow.
Let's go, baby.
Put that before a song, man.
All day.
It's 40 million.
Right now it's 40, huh? Let's
We're
go.
moving, baby.
Yeah,
We're
let's
dialed
go.
in.
Let's go. So you're an East Coast guy, though.
I'm originally from East Boston, yeah.
Boston. And when did you get to California?
In 1999, we moved to California, to Marin, a town called Terra Linda. And my dad started working at this restaurant called Il Fornaio. And yeah, that's where kind of I grew up until I moved to San Diego.
And you said the reason for the move was because of the restaurants, correct?
Yeah, the restaurants.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you first came here, how old were you when you came here?
I was 11. Oh, it's 12. I was 11.
11 years old.
Yeah.
So
you came where to the Bay?
Just to California in general.
Yeah, I was 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And where were you first at when you moved here?
I was in right after high school. I moved to San Diego.
Okay.
So right after high school, I moved to San Diego. Met Sean and Don, my team. We started the Yo movement. We started just picking up some traction down there, like doing live shows, all this stuff. learning the music space. And then at the end of 2018, I finally, after some songwriting gigs, I moved to LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where does music start for you? Where did you get into it? Was it before you moved, like very young, or when you came to California? Did that have an influence?
When I was in the Bay, since '99, I've been getting my dough. I said it because that's when I started music. 1999 is when I started music. I was a young kid. My brothers used to make music. The Bay Area was super DIY. A lot of people in my neighborhood rapped or produced or wanted to. And so my brother Aaron, he built a studio, built a booth at our house, and him and my brother Mike started rapping. And I loved like guys like T-Pain and Akon at the time, and I just wanted to be the hook guy. So I would just always be the guy who was always doing the choruses. And just caught the bug from then. And eventually, I think, though, for real, because if you ever look at Ill Nicky online, like, you see that I rep San Diego a lot. Because that's really where I started, like, building it. That's the scene that I was a part of building. And, that's where I had my first shows and had my first everything in music.
When you have something in your mind, how do you take it from being in your mind and then putting it into... whether it be bars, like for the verses, or just into maybe a melody for the song? How does that happen for you?
That all depends. You brought up Painted Red. Painted Red was definitely something that was melody first, because it was like the in the car I was saying something like that to a beat that I was listening to, and so it was like so it starts like that, and then eventually I'll put some lyrics to it, and that's whatever I put to that. That hurts my wrist. I don't get hydrated. That just felt like it was like more like scatting, and then you find the lyrics.
Yeah.
And then I'll find ways to make it make sense. It's either that or it's the opposite. It's I need to say this right now, and I'll find ways to melodically curve this to make it sound interesting and cool, and just depending on what I want to do. And then being able to have producers and engineers that I work with to be able to help me guide me through that process to bring that thing together.
Will there ever be a time, or I guess when you hear the beat first and then you put the lyrics to it, or do you have lyrics in your mind sometimes and then you were like, wait, that'll fit with this beat?
That's what I was saying. It could be both.
Yeah.
My process, though, because this is a very, songwriters, especially in LA, like any camp that you go to, songwriters' process a lot of time is the producer plays the beat and we all go in there and take turns on melodies. Okay. Now you might have somebody that, like my boy Obvi, will go in there and he's really good at freestyling, so he might have a lot of lyrics that you pick out from that. I'm someone like that too. I might have some words, some lyrics that people are like, oh, I like that you said that word right there. So, but most of the time it's just they play the beat and it's like da 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 da, and then that's how the whole thing sounds, and then the whole camp just sits there and writes to the melody, and just tries to write lyrics that are powerful or it could be the other way around. Like if I had a song I was working on lately because I'm like picking up guitar little by little, and so I wrote a song to these just basic 4 chords, and I had like that idea fully written out, like lyrics, melodies, everything, and then I just came here and my buddy played that chord structure on the keys and then helped me kind of elevate it. But you know, it's always different.
Yeah, it's the creative process for artists. It always interests me because you have some people that are like, no, I just do it this way, that way. It's interesting when I hear a song. A lot of times I'll get visuals to that, or like what I was saying today when I was lifting and listening to your music, right? The energy that it transpires like through the song, that gives me almost visuals to things, and it gives me certain types of energy. And it's interesting. I'll hear a beat or I'll hear lyrics from somebody, and that kind of, it's cool when you can feel it coming through the music.
Totally.
And I think that's something that I felt with your music from the first time I listened to all those songs, which was not too long ago. Is I could feel the passion, I could feel the energy.
That's fire.
And there's so much variety too. Like even the song Double Tap. Like that song is, I listen to that, I'm like, and the message in that song too is so cool. Like, I mean, people got to check it out and listen, but it's cool the variety of flow you have. And when you're in a studio session, are there a lot of people in the studio with you? Do you like to kind of dial in and just be in there yourself sometimes? How does that work?
I don't particularly enjoy the lyrical process of sharing that with anybody, because there's 2 different things. There's making a song for sync or making a song for another artist, you know, and those types of things, it can be a little bit more vague. You know, you could have lyrics that are, you know, lyrics that are a little bit more vague, not so personal. But for me, I write from a very personal space, so there's not really much you can give me to where I want to go lyrically. Melodically, I've had people help me with melodies, structures, things like that, but lyrically I like to just keep that to myself. I feel like I get the most real stuff out of that, because it is for me, I'm telling stories. I'm a rapper by heart, you know, so I like to tell my story the way that I see it. This is my expression.
Yes.
You know, so for me, like it has to be, and I come from the era where the rappers are the writers. That's what I say in my new song. But I come from the era of, you know, it's a competitive sport as well. So for me, I like to put my pen up again and be like, no, this is my pen, you know? So not to be closed doors to anybody, because I do love collaborative processes, but like when it comes to my lyrics and something I want to say, please don't tell me not to say this.
Okay.
But I do appreciate people who kind of help me be like, well, maybe you could say it a little better. So it's a give and take. But again, it's a personal process for me. So.
Yeah, I think with what you were just saying is, you know, as I mentioned, I had a bar at Rutgers, right? And through that in nightlife in New Jersey, I got to meet a lot of very talented DJs.
Yeah.
And there's one kid who's become a very good friend of mine. He goes by the name Brant Wolf, which is his name. And he is amazing. They actually just dropped an album.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, him and his buddy Brian Mosen.
Dope.
Called Board Pieces, and they call themselves Checkmate. But what he was saying, what you were just saying, when you dial in on your craft and you get it to a point where you're comfortable with everything you're putting out and you feel like you're saying exactly what you want to say, how you want to say it, when somebody comes in and says, oh, you shouldn't say it like that, it's kind of weird to think about that, because they're giving that advice from their perspective.
Yeah.
Whereas what you just said, you're like, I'm telling my story. Yeah. So I don't want, it's almost like, not that even you want to just rub people the wrong way and you're open to all this and that, but it's your creative expression of your story.
Absolutely,
and I think in this day and age with music, there's a lot of artists who are just putting out music that it's not really about their story. It's not really something they're passionate about.
I agree.
And you just said about the writers, one of my, I don't know if you're familiar with Crooked Eye, but he was in
I love Crooked
Slaughterhouse.
Eye.
And he's West Coast, and he was
I mentioned his name in the same song I just told you about.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is my favorite MC of all time. And it was just like that, the lyricist era, you know?
Yeah.
So it's cool that you kind of came up in that, and now you're existing in this era where there's not a lot of people doing that, but your music is so true to you. And like I said, the energy that transpires through it, it's just, you can really feel that. So
I appreciate that. I think I think it's really important for that to be so, because, you know, you ever been in a room where someone's telling a story? And you just feel it. It's like, you know, you might be sharing a glass of wine with somebody, and it's just like, this guy is such a good storyteller. Yeah. It's such a good story because that person is in it. You know, it's their story to tell, and you're just feeling it. You're with them then we went around the corner and we peeled off and it was crazy. We fucking, you know, it's just like you're in it because this person is telling you their story or the way that they see how that story went down. And it's the same thing with a songwriter or an artist delivering a song. I need to be able to believe that was you in that position. Yeah. That was you going through these things, and that's why I try to encourage artists all the time where, you know, yes, collaborate, like bring people together. Because that's so important to bring people together with your music, but there's people who play instruments and do things that you don't necessarily do. Just talking about songwriters or performers, where it's like, but tell your story, even if it's not the most interesting story to you. Lil Dicky didn't have the most interesting story, you know. He made it interesting. He created this world. He created this story. So I just feel like it's really important to be real, be authentic, because that resonates with someone out there.
Yeah, 100%. And I've always said this, when you're putting out energy that is truly you, and it's cool that you get to do that through music, and it's cool that it has reached so many people, but when you're doing that, it attracts the right people. It attracts the people that want to be around that energy. It doesn't even have to just be music. You know,
sure.
It could be anything you're doing. Like going back to the restaurant example, Reds, my energy came out, you know, being in nightlife, being there, and when the students who were coming felt that, they were like, yo, we want to be around this. Yeah. And that created the environment. Whereas just trying to cater to a crowd that you want to bring in and not really being yourself, it's not really sustainable. It doesn't, you know, create long-term success.
Yeah.
It's very short-term. And that's what I feel like nowadays in music too, and just the current state of social media with TikTok and everything, a lot of people are going for such short-term success. And then it's funny when you see these people blow up and then shortly after, you see them come back down.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's because I feel like they're chasing something that's so instantaneous, like that instant gratification.
Yeah.
Now, what do you make of the current state of social media and music and how it's kind of changed the scope of it?
I think people have it confused. I think that people say about the space of TikTok and social media that it's not about talent anymore. But I actually disagree with that wholeheartedly, because I think this is the challenge that we're going through right now, is that it's actually about the most talented people, because we're selecting from a larger pool of people. So now, because we're so connected, all the people that bubble up on TikTok now are literally the most talented people in the world, because they're just putting their phone on and delivering their talent. Now, whether that's done in a way that's just like they're really good at manipulating their voice or using technology to make it, but that's the truth. Singers, rappers, anybody that's really good, they're the first ones to bubble up on TikTok. But the problem is, I don't want to say the problem, but like the challenge is, that's not always the most interesting story, is the most talented people. You have most talented people. Somebody said, I was reading Bob Dylan's book, and Bob Dylan, you know Bob Dylan?
Yep.
And his voice is not the most, you know, we were there, ringing in a man. Like, it's like, what? Like, if he stepped on a stage on American Idol today, people would be like, what, bro? Nah, man. And maybe not. Maybe he would, maybe that's bullshit, but like, it feels like his voice, he wouldn't get anywhere based on just his voice. But he had a story. And when the guy who signed Bob Dylan said, there's a million beautiful voices out there with nothing to say. That's what he told Bob Dylan. And that's really indicative of the culture now, is you have a bunch of very talented people with nothing to say. And I think that that's where it loses its luster of like, why do I give a shit about, and it's empty. It feels empty. And it's not just that, not to be so like, that's not all it is, but a lot of times you have people that are copying each other, because that was not tight back in the day. You can't bite. You're not supposed to bite. You find your own space in this. And you also respect the culture that you're in. There's a lot of people that don't respect rap or hip hop, you know, and that's, especially as white folk being in a music that is created by Black America. It's like I feel like a utter lack of respect for art in that way, where you have people that don't know their history of where rap comes from, where hip hop comes from, and people that didn't really like compete in the circuit and like really go through doing shows, like selling tickets, trying to get on stage, like going through all of that stuff makes you, it makes you have something to say. it gives you a story to talk about because now you're part of that process. Comedians don't just like all of a sudden blow up. Comedians have a good checks and balances in there because they'll be like, no, we all been grinding for 15 years. You don't just get to cut the line. So I think that's important in a culture to be like, that's important. Where are you from? How long have you been doing this? Do you respect the craft? Do you respect the art? A lot of people just bubble up from their rooms just because they have a little talent, but they don't care about the culture, they don't care about the art, they don't care about the space they're in, and they have very little to say. Long-winded, but I'm having tequila, so.
No, the whole copying people and doing like this trend thing in TikTok threw me for a loop right at the beginning because it was just, when you think about like social media and being original, I always felt like being original was the greatest thing.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's almost like it flipped, and you know, doing these trends and doing all these things, that's what's getting you to be pushed more. And I think what happens is people fall into the trap of they need to start doing what everybody else is doing in order to get that success. But what you were just saying is when you're telling your story and you're doing that, you know, authentic to you, that's different than everybody else out there.
Yeah.
And that's what stands the test of time. And it's also with, again, going back to the energy thing, if you're putting out fake energy to try and to impress people that really won't like you for who you are, then you're just, that's in the long term, again, that's just going to be detrimental. You're hanging out with these people that don't even know the real you. And then it's this whole sense of, you know, there's no real like happiness or feeling of success in there. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Absolutely.
And I don't know, have you experienced that here in California in general, or even in the music industry out here with the people that are in this scene? Because I don't know this scene. You know, I'm from the East Coast, I'm from Jersey, greatest state in the fucking union. But, you know, out here, what is that scene like? What was it like coming up in that scene?
If you're coming up in a scene and you know somebody, right away they have my respect. You know, because like we're there, we're all present. We're here present and accounted for. Everyone's trying. You know, I'm maybe I could be better at this, but I've always been maybe a little too subjective when it comes to music and the people that are taking part in it. I love to encourage people because I was once, maybe still in some people's mind, at a place of he has a lot of work to do. You know, I mean I listened to stuff from 10 years ago and I cringe because I know there was a lot of improvement to be had. But it's like if I was surrounded by too many people being like, that sucks, I might have stopped. So like I don't like to discourage people, but to answer your question, like in San Diego, it was a little different from LA. And correct me if I'm just give me the question one more time because I want to answer it right.
Just interested. I don't know the scene out here and what it's like to come up in that scene, in the music scene in general. I wouldn't know whether it's not, but what was it like in terms of coming up in that scene, the people that were around you and how they connected with your music and how that influenced what you did?
Got you. So in San Diego, it was much more underground, and people championed each other a lot more. And it has nothing to do with the people that were there. It had more to do with the lack of competition. Because now you have people that are like, we're not thinking or talking about numbers or clout or anything like that. It's just, hey, you got a guitar, I got a mic, you got a fucking, you know how to work Pro Tools. Let's all get in a room and just make some music together. It's much more wholesome, at least in my experience down there, because the people I was surrounding myself with were people that were on the rise. They wanted to make lives in music. Up here, it's much more competitive and sometimes can be a little toxic because it's like that competition turns into like, oh, well, yeah, I've done this before. Oh, I've done that before, right? But it's coming from not such a negative place. It comes from people who have put in a lot of time and are tired of bullshit, tired of getting lapped, tired of having people put in 1 year and then they're way ahead of them. That hurts for people. You know, you love something and you're doing something for 15 years and then this guy's been doing it for 2 years and all of a sudden they're way ahead of you. That hurts. That would hurt in any industry. Imagine being in someone climbing a corporate ladder and the guy who just got hired in the mailroom is all of a sudden way ahead of you. You're like, bro, I just put in 20 years. How am I not getting the promotion? That is the tough grind of music, is that there is no guarantee. And I don't know if I answered your question right, but my point that I'm making is that like that's the scene. The scene is either supportive or it's competitive. It could be all those things, but it's what you make it. you know?
Yeah, and I think what you were saying about how it kind of goes back to a point you made before. If you see somebody lapping you that just came in the game, it can be discouraging.
Yeah.
So if you were doing it for the wrong reasons, which is what I was talking about before, that might discourage you from doing it at all, like ever at all, right?
Yeah,
But if it's something that you love, you're going to keep going with it. And I could see how you were saying like, oh man, like, dude, I've been doing this forever and I still can't, I'm still not where that person is. But doing something you love kind of eliminates that, because it kind of, when I think about like a podcast or like what I'm doing and the reason I'm doing it, there's so many out there, right? It's so saturated. Everybody's like, oh, there's so many podcasts. How are you ever gonna make? It's like, that doesn't even matter to me. Somebody could have just started one and go way more.
Some people used to tell me about there's so many rappers.
Yeah.
It's you want to be a rapper?
But did that ever discourage you from doing it?
No.
Exactly.
But that's where I try to tell people this all the time. I don't want to put nobody under the bus, but like I had a conversation like this morning. If you love something, why the fuck would it matter? Like, there is nothing you could have told me, but maybe that's just the way some people are built. Even when I said I wanted to be in the NBA. Look at me. Most people would say that's not happening, but that fueled me more. I liked when people told me no. I like when people told me that I couldn't do something. I like I'm competitive. But at the same time, like, if you're driven by a purpose and every day you're getting up to go towards that purpose, there's nothing anybody could tell you ever. So I try to tell people to just like reignite your flame or refocus on what your intention is, because if somebody's words are getting you off of your, then there's going to be a time that shit just gets more and more. You might get one hater today, but you blow up tomorrow, you're going to get 30,000 of them. So if you can't handle that comes with it all. If you can't handle that, then this is probably not the industry for you. And not even the industry, probably not the craft for you. Because you're putting yourself out there. That's what this thing is. And even you putting this out, this is your content. You're the face behind, the voice behind it. If you have one move where someone doesn't like, or they can trash you online, they say, oh, fuck Red.
And
Why?
They have.
This guy's nothing but a nice, sweet guy doing his podcast, trying to talk about his life and giving people like me platforms to speak about theirs. What is he doing wrong? The intention behind it when someone knows it is like, the haters seem ridiculous. Who cares?
Yeah, when it's in your heart and you have a purpose, what you just said, that word purpose, it's like all that gets drowned out. There's nothing anybody can say to stop you
Literally
from doing
nothing.
what you want to do.
Even though it does hurt sometimes.
Yeah.
And I've been hurt by them before, so I'm not trying to act like I'm never affected
I mean,
by
it always stings a little bit, but again, like you said, remembering your why in anything you're doing, music, opening a restaurant, doing a podcast, whatever it may be, trying to make it to the NBA, remembering your why is the answer for, is the answer to everybody talking that trash, everybody talking down on you, and just moving past it.
Yeah.
And I've experienced
Remember
it
your
too
why.
all the time.
Yeah.
And again, it was even like, it's interesting because it's tough for me to explain how much went down at Reds to everybody I have, but every podcast a little bit more comes out. But it was the same thing when Reds took off. It's almost like that's not going to happen even when you get to a certain point.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. If you were, it's funny to think about this. You wouldn't have those people if you were performing for, say, 10 people, right?
Yeah.
Say you perform for 10 people, all 10 people like it, great. You perform for 100,000.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe 10,000 aren't going to like what went down. Still had 90,000 people that fucking loved it. Yeah. And although the negativity seems loud, the reason that you have 10,000 people that didn't like it is because you were performing for 100,000.
Exactly.
So you have to kind of, it's very tough in the moment, like you were saying. It's tough it's easy to sit here and say, oh yeah, move past it if you have a purpose and all that.
Yeah.
But the reality is, of course, it will sting.
It will sometimes.
It's for a reason, and if you can move past that, remembering your why is so key. The way you said it was so spot on. I was just getting fired up when you were saying.
Let's go.
But I want to go back and speaking of coming up in the scene and what you were saying before.
Yeah.
When did the music start really taking off for you?
2019, and I don't want to disrespect the journey that was before that, because we definitely had our moments. Sean's in the room right now, so I don't want to. I might say that and he'd be like, well, we had big moments before 2019. We were in San Diego but that's all relative. Like, the kind of you against you competing against yourself. It's like we started for real in 2012 2011, like really going after it, 2011. And then 2012, we're putting out records. 2013, 2014, 2015, we started our LLC. We opened our LLC, the O Movement. That's when we started our label and really started taking it serious as a business. So that same year we did a Kickstarter. We raised $6,000 and we put it in merchandise. And this is the first time that we could see the thing, throw the ill on hats and really talk about what the I Love Life thing was all about, and really grow it into a brand that people could now like, dang, I see it. I see the vision, putting out more professional records, being able to buy the rights, the exclusive rights to beats, and just taking it more serious. So that was a big move. And then all of a sudden being able to opening up for Nipsey Hussle in 2016, because that was a big moment, going on our first tour internationally, like Puerto Rico, and going to Cancun with Too Short. Like, these are, all the time that this is happening, my music isn't really moving online, I have people that are sending pictures of getting tattoos of my logo and of lyrics and all these things, and I'm like, that's amazing. And thank God for that, because I feel like it was something guiding me forward, because I might have been too discouraged at that time. And then there was people telling me that certain songs that I got had 5,000 streams on it, telling me this song changed their lives, saved their lives. And it's like, how did you hear this, and how come nobody else is hearing it? So I was frustrated in 2018. I left San Diego for that reason. I said, I need to do more. I feel like I'm letting a lot of people who believe in this thing down, because I feel like if this is going to happen, I got to really go for it. And I think that was my way of just saying, like, I need to get past this ceiling, because I've outgrown, I'm too ambitious for these 7 blocks, And so I think coming up to LA was just a way to test myself and say, can I compete? Can I really, like, I hate to say that this is all a personal competition for me. I make music because I love it and I love connecting with people. But on that side of things, like, this is an artistic journey for me. But I did want to know, can I compete on that next level? And in 2019, I joined up with United Masters, who's our distribution partners. And one of the songs that was on Internet Friends was called 430. It's featuring my friend Trey Aces. It was produced by my boy Raver and Billion. And that one went into NBA 2K, and that was the first time I ever had, like, millions. So that was another level. We've had moments like that after, but I think 430 was the first time I ever had, like, whoa, okay, we can do this.
That was the moment.
Yeah.
That's sick. So that was featured in NBA 2K. And
yeah.
What, NBA 2K?
20.
Mm-hmm. And then you see it's cool when you have a moment where you can see it, because like you said, it's interesting to hear, like, you were on tour, like, you were going to, and big names, Nipsey Hussle, Too Short,
right?
Like, it's awesome. And then later comes the moment still, where it's like, oh, this is it, and this is like, and it's like you said, but prior to that, there's some moments where there could be discouragement and you're not sure if it's working out. It's interesting to hear that, because you were on tour with these big names, and still at that moment you can kind of feel yourself. Sometimes I've noticed on the way to going to where you are right now, these things that are maybe deemed as so successful to people on the outside, when you're actually in it, like when you were on tour, it was interesting to hear you say, like, yeah, even then I might have been discouraged because we didn't really have big things like that, or we couldn't really see it. And then that song hits, that's your moment, and you're like, damn, this is it. Now, where do you go from there once that song hits? Do you follow that type of music per se? Because what I'm getting to now is, sometimes when something big hits, people tend to follow with something similar. Did you have songs in the bank already ready to release? Were you working on new projects, or how did that go right from there?
Well, first off, I wasn't always right with my methods, so it's like you mature, you get older, you realize, what's important, what are you chasing, why are you chasing something? Because it's never going to be enough. The millions turn into 10 millions, and the 10 million is not enough because you don't have 20 million, and then now you don't have 100 million like Drake. So it's called relative deprivation. It's the people who drop out at the bottom of Harvard. They don't realize they go to Harvard, that they're in the top 1 percentile of the nation, but since they're in the bottom of Harvard, they feel like they suck, so they quit. It's the same thing with music. It's a mindset thing. Like, we shouldn't be in that place. You should only be comparing yourself to yourself right now, can I outdo this again? Can I outdo this again? So I would say take these little steps and these little wins. That's first. I didn't do that all the time. A lot of times I was like in my head and started creating because I wanted to blow up. You know, and so then you go down and luckily I had good people like Sean in my life, like Don in my life, that kind of bring you back and be like, hey, is this really what you want to do? You know, let's stick to what we're doing, the why. And then that's really important to just kind of go back and remind yourself. But musically, yeah, I had no idea where I was going to go after that. I think I had an idea of what I wanted to make. I was in this melodic rap bag, and I started getting identified online as emo rap. And I was a little stung by that, just because I feel like, and this is probably how a black artist would feel about the box of urban. Emo rap is totally a fucking box for white rappers or white melodic rappers, singers, rappers.
Yeah. Because
it's very much like you're doing a big melody on this and then rapping it. Oh, it must be emo. so I felt like I wasn't really in that, because the full like extreme of emo is like, why am I here? And that's just I'm not that emo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Respect to my emo rappers out there. I love y'all, man. Like, but it wasn't my bag. I wanted to do, and I also felt like my music was younger than my age. So I felt like I wanted to make music that was past just the loops on Splice, just the guitar loops on. I felt like the guitar loops on Splice over 808s was just like pounding into the ground, and there was so much music out there with that. So I felt like I didn't know where to go from there. I knew I wanted to make stuff that people still loved from me, but you know, I think that's what was awesome with Virgil, is we got to work on all that in here, using all these synths, and we got to get creative, but I still kind of had a familiarity to the music. You know, did you hear like Come Alive and Crosses and all those ones? Yeah. So like those ones, you see that it's very similar. I'm still like, you know, having big anthemic choruses and like being melodic on the and you know, like doing melodic rap on the verses and talking about personal stuff and having punchlines here and there, still kind of doing my rap thing, but like, you know, but elevated in the production. So I still, right now at this point, like I don't know what's next, but I think that's important. I grew up on guys like Kid Cudi, who did a punk album on his second album, so it's like following an album that was produced by Rat-a-tat and you know, shit like that, where it was like electronic vibes and stuff. So going into his dark punk album, it was like, cool, I'm here for it. So always evolving and trying shit.
Yeah, the Kid Cudi thing is cool because whatever, I believe the song was Man on the Moon, and he goes,
one of my favorites.
Yeah. And they say, yo, why does shit sound so different? And he's
like that, like that's a bad thing.
Like that's a bad thing. It's like, it's interesting if you kind of feel what you're putting out there is true to you. It's almost like even if you hear that, and sometimes you don't know. Like you said, you're trying different things, and even at this very point, you don't. I feel that's such an overarching theme of life is no matter what, you don't know. Like you're always figuring things out, no matter what. Even when it looks from the outside, a lot of times people will think you have everything figured out, and you're in it, and you're just like, I got nothing figured out.
I'm flying by the seat of my pants. What the fuck is next? And I feel that.
It's just you experience that over and over, and then you finally learn. You're like, okay, it's always something, you know, every day.
Absolutely. I think you know who would agree with you? There's a lot of people in the music industry would agree with that sentiment. I think we've like demonized the music industry so much because, yes, we've heard about like bad deals and everything, but at the end of the day, like this industry is filled with a bunch of people who are doing their best to like live a life where they can make art. You know, yes, there's like middlemen who like ruin the whole process sometimes, and like there's a lot of these things, but mostly people don't know what they're doing. They don't know what's next. And so when you have people that are sitting up on panels or like, yo, can you give me a shot? Can you give me a chance? It's like, I don't even know where I'm going to be tomorrow, Mr. VP at Warner, or like, you know what I mean? They just have a really cool position where you in your mind, you deem like, wow, that person must know what they're doing. They have a lot of experience, and they could give you like a list of knowledge and gems. But at the end of the day, they don't know where the fuck they're going to be tomorrow.
100%.
So, you know, when you're expecting all these people to like tell you what to do all the time. Best thing you could do is learn what you can and just keep moving in your own way, you know? Because it's like no one knows what's going on. No one could have predicted XXXTentacion's song, Look at Me, Fuck on Me, that was going to be the biggest hit of the year. It sounded like it was recorded out of a backpack. It was bad, recording-wise.
Yeah.
So if that guy popped into Atlantic or Columbia or any big wig office that year and played him the song, hey, what do you think about this? Opening up for criticism. They'd be like, well, you got to re-record that, right? You got to re-record that, right?
Yeah.
No, motherfucker, I don't, because this shit is what the kids love right now, and this shit's going crazy.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have known that if he didn't just drop it on SoundCloud.
Yeah, 100%. That's, oh man. The concept of having something that can take off if it's just listened to by the right people or put in the right room with the right people around it. They always say that. It's like you take something out of one environment and put it into another, you have two totally different results.
Yeah.
You know, and that's,
for sure.
I think that's so cool with music. You said it earlier in the podcast. It's like, maybe it doesn't sound good to somebody or that doesn't sound so good to this person, but you put it somewhere else and it could take off. And I think that's the really cool thing about music, and that's why it's cool when you can feel the energy and the passion of an artist through their music, because when they're staying true to them, like, it will find that environment if they stick to it. I just feel like in my mind,
Absolutely.
and I know there's so many ups and downs, and I'm sure you've had plenty of them, and I've had them in the restaurant industry, but if you know where you're going, if you think you know where you're going, then you're going to keep taking those ups and downs every day, because once you hit the right spot and it goes, you're like, that's why I've been doing it this whole time. And it's like, finally, somebody is listening who appreciates it. And I think it's so cool with creative industries like music, because it's interesting to see how one person may think it's terrible, but then this person may think it's amazing.
Right.
And I just think that's such a cool part of music. And that's why it's cool that there's so many different varieties. Are you into any other types do you mainly listen to hip hop? Like, what are you into?
Thank you for asking that, because I was, that's so funny you said that, because I was thinking about that this morning, because I feel bad, but I don't listen to any hip hop at this current point, except for like my old favorites, or I like Larry June. I like guys that are like talking about things that like I want to hear. Larry June, La Russell, guys like that. But I mainly listen to like alternative folk and like instrumental music, classical every morning. But like I love a group called like the Bahamas. I love a guy called Amor. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name, but he has Novo Amor. Yeah, I really like a guy named Novo Amor right now, and he just like calm, easy listening, you know. I think that's because I'm surrounded by music all day.
Yeah.
So when I'm listening like in my headphones or in my car or like at a workout, it's hard for me to listen to stuff that I'm making or stuff that's in my lane or even like anything heavy. I like little just chill little like Americana shit. Like it's nice. It's nice. So, you know, that's my vibe right now, at least. It might change. You know, I really like this artist named Gene Dawson, which is a whole nother thing. That's like post-punk stuff. He's from San Diego. I like anybody that's doing something new and exciting and something true, you know, lyrics that are cutting, because I got to tell you, as a songwriter, I've heard every lyric. I've heard all the lyrics. So when you pop, I'm crushed by pop, because I really do traditionally like pop music. But as a songwriter, it's hard to listen to it anymore, because it all sounds like songs that we wrote in rooms. You know, it all sounds like, I've heard that line, I've heard that line, I've heard that. Fuck, man, this is like just recycled lines. Not all the time, but that's why I want to listen to like stuff that's written by singer-songwriters.
Yeah.
Right now, it just feels true. Or like metal or like post-punk, it just feels like cathartic. It feels like this person's actually like going through this experience, and they actually love what they're doing, and it's so I don't like anytime something feels like manufactured. I hate it.
Yeah,
can't stand it.
It's interesting how variety, you can draw inspiration from variety too. Like that, something that may not be so strictly hip hop can still inspire you to do something in, say, hip hop, or vice versa. And it's because like I listen to all types of music, and I think also, like you said, it depends how you're feeling. Yeah, it's crazy how music is one of the things that when you have a certain energy, you can put a certain song on to match that energy, and it amplifies it.
Oh yeah, like you were saying.
It's crazy.
At Muscle Beach, yeah.
It's crazy. Like I talk about, there was a time when, we can get into the pandemic talk and stuff and what happened with you and that, but
for sure.
For me, that's when Red's My Bar took off, because back in Jersey, they were trying to keep everything shut down, all that.
Yeah.
We were closed for 6 months and we reopened, right?
Yeah.
And that's when they were trying to limit capacity still, and it was basically still all controlled, and basically you'll never make any money and you're done. So I was pushing the limits like crazy, but in the end, because of the pandemic and all of that and all the backlog expenses during that time, we had to close. Yeah. So I remember there was a time where I was like, I would go to the gym and I would just be so angry, right? And you guys know me a couple days, like, right? I'm very positive energy. I'm like, let's fucking go. Like,
I feel like if you were to flip a switch, though, you might hit me with an overhand right.
So it was interesting to feel that energy, that anger.
Yeah.
Wait till this passes real quick. Because I never really felt that before. But what was interesting was when I was in the gym, and it kind of turns into a lesson for me, is like when that was happening and I was lifting all by myself, I go to this place called Condon School of Baseball, and I got the key and I got all my weights there, and he's been helping me out for years, and he has a great gym set up.
Nice.
I'd be there alone, and I remember during that time it was a time in my life where I had a lot of anger, because I was like, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to us, my family? We opened the spot. I worked so hard, this and that, and
something you can't even control.
Couldn't control anything. I'm like trying, and I'm just so angry with so many different, outside factors, right?
Yeah.
But I remember playing this music, and I remember, oh man, what's the song? It's by Pusha T, and what was one of the songs? There was
Numbers
many,
on
right?
the board.
But man,
was it that one?
No, it was the song from Full Alchemist Brotherhood.
Sean probably knows.
Full Metal
Big
Alchemist
Pusha T
Brotherhood,
guy
and it's this crazy like song that's just so just so much energy and so much fire behind, but it's like angry. And when I felt like that, and then I played that song,
beat your chest. Oh,
like you just, and I remember the numbers I was putting up were insane. Like I was pushing, and I couldn't be stopped, right? So it's interesting how music amplifies energy.
Oh,
it's crazy.
more than anything.
People, I don't understand how people, I guess maybe they've never felt it, but it's tough for me to understand how people don't understand that, because there's, especially the whole Kid Cudi thing you were talking about, so many people saved by his music. So many people felt what he was putting out there. Like Will's one of them right here. He's biggest fucking Kid Cudi fan I know.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah, he really is.
you felt it, and going through emotions like that, when you listen to those songs, it amplifies those emotions, but it takes you to a place of almost I feel like where you should be when you're feeling those emotions, and that's what's cool about it. And then you get past, and all of a sudden I'm bumping John Summit and house music, and I'm fucking vibing. I'm still putting up numbers.
Everything.
Yeah, it's
great
cool.
to listen to everything.
House music, anything like that, like DJs.
I love everything.
Yeah.
I love everything except I told you, except for stuff that feels manufactured and inauthentic.
Yeah.
Anything authentic, I'll listen to anything.
Who were some of your biggest inspirations, if you had any?
Cudi.
Coming up. Cudi?
Kanye. Yeah. High School Dropout. Anything that year, Kanye. Even up to Yeezus. Like, I just love the way that he operated. Drake. If you're reading this era, got me really into that bag. Was like, okay, this can be a little bit more minimal. Like, I don't have to have this big giant production. So he inspired that. Tech 9 was huge in the way that he operated as an independent.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, like if you hear my music, I don't sound anything like Tech, but like, come to my show and see me do the double time rap that comes from when I used to double time all the time, because I wanted to be a Midwest chopper. I love the way that he turned a brand, an independent brand, into something so big, and more of a lifestyle. People live their lives off of that. It was so inspiring. So stuff like that. I know that there's so many more. A really random one that I say all the time is Tracy Chapman. I think in melody. I don't know, but I always loved her music. I loved I loved the oldies my parents played all the time. My dad's favorite is the Blue Notes, Teddy Pendergrass and the Blue Notes. So I think I do have a big, I really love R&B, but like that type of R&B, just smooth, like I like smooth, easy listening stuff.
Well, you talking about the classics here. I know you're Italian, big part. You're
Frank
big
Sinatra,
Italian. Yeah,
of course.
Sinatra,
Dean
Martin,
Martin.
like that whole era. I love the camaraderie. It was a different type of camaraderie back then, like the way they had it. And I love Don Rickles is one of my favorite comedians. Watching him interact with Frank Sinatra, it's just.
You ever heard the story he told about Frank Sinatra?
Yeah, where he's out to dinner.
Yeah.
And he tells him, hey, I'm trying to hook up with this girl. Can you come say hello? Sinatra comes up to him and goes, can't you see I'm eating here, Frank? I fucking watched every interview with Don Rickles. Amazing.
Yeah.
It's just,
I love Don
It's
Rickles.
cool. And again, the inspiration
Rest in
aspect
peace.
of it, you can find inspiration in that. And I think a lot of people sometimes are turned off to variety, which is interesting to me. Yeah. But once you start listening to it, you can almost draw the connection and the parallel between it all. Yeah. You know?
I didn't know that, because actually that's really dope. The inspiration that I have with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and like that, even like Bobby Darin, just that era of, what was that, like 50s?
Yeah, I mean, it was back
right?
then.
So anyway, like just the, it was so Italian American.
Yeah,
We have pictures of Frank Sinatra in our Sammy Davis Jr. We have the whole Rat Pack. Like, and I loved, I didn't, when I was growing up, I didn't know that this was part of my identity. It was just a thing that was like, oh yeah, I think you see it a lot in my music today, because when the cool experience about being in music or art or anything where you're promoting yourself is you have to ask yourself the questions, who am I and what do I have to say? And you don't really have to answer that if you're just kind of like growing up and you're like, yeah, oh yeah. They're like, are you Italian? And be like, oh yeah, I'm Italian. But like when you start looking at like, what are the things that make up me? Like, what would my movie look like? Damn, I am really fucking Italian. I started realizing like, the way my uncles are exactly like in this movie. Like everyone got the Italian horn and, they all do the fucking, they all talk with the fucking, what's the matter with you? Yeah. Like, this is us. We're all sitting in a cellar drinking jugged wine, talking bullshit, eating cannolis. Like, my family's hella Italian. Mm-hmm. And so, like, but I didn't recognize that before. So being able to see guys like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and kind of borrow from those things as far as aesthetic and image and all those things, it's been really cool to kind of like uncover that process. So and I'm still learning like how I want to be perceived and who I am. So that's why you always see the table anytime I perform on stage. You see the table with the red and white tablecloth.
Let's fucking go.
I think it's just a way to say, hey, this is a symbol of me. It's unity, it's family, it's Italian, it's me. Yeah. So like it's a way to kind of bring people in and be like, when you're here, well, yeah, your family.
Well, your Spotify, the description and everything. Yeah. So what's up, paisans? The first thing you read,
exactly. And
it's the whole Italian American culture and everything. Like they have a podcast and the page Growing Up Italian. I mean, and it's so popular, but it's true. It's just like everybody like, how you fucking doing? Like it's just, and it's funny.
Thank you, buddy.
So the place I was telling you about, the spot in New Jersey, DJs, it's called. Yeah. DJs. Everybody knows DJs is my spot.
This is Jersey Shore?
This is the Jersey Shore. Wow. This is the greatest place at the Jersey Shore. Yeah. Listen, let me tell you something. You come to New Jersey. Yeah. You gotta come during the summer.
I want to come.
And we're gonna go to Jay's. We're gonna go to DJ's.
There's a lot of pressure.
No.
Yeah. Me going down there, I feel like be like, these people are very Italian.
No, it is, and you see a lot of black on black. Yeah. The Thursday uniform. The Thursday uniform, as I learned from my buddy Slim Cooper, who's a big time Italian, and Steve Ruda, Steven Ruda, big Italian, and he said, the Thursday uniform, the black on black, and he's just typically a V-neck, we were talking about it. So but a lot of Italian culture there, and it's just that culture is so profound, and it's just, you're right, when you watch Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, all that. And also just what I like to say about Frank Sinatra whenever I talk about him, it was cool back then how he stood up for Sammy Davis Jr.
Yes.
Because people may not know this, but he would go to do shows in other places where Sammy Davis Jr. wasn't really welcome. Yeah. And he said, listen, if he doesn't come in, I don't come in. Exactly. I'm not performing.
Put his fucking foot down.
And that was at a time where not a lot of people were doing that. Yeah. And I think it was so fucking cool. And it's Frank Sinatra, so good at singing. One of the the best ever, right? Yeah. New Jersey, by the way. New Jersey, Bergen County, baby. Yeah. And but then it's cool when you have somebody who's at the top like that, so good at what they do, highest level at what they do, and then you hear a story like that, and that always sticks out to me. And so whenever I talk about him, I like to throw that in there because I don't think a lot of people knew that, and it was cool when I heard that story.
The actual like person.
Yes, and you go and he sticks up for him and says, "Listen, it's either all of us or none of us. He's coming in, and if not, I'm not coming."
And that's
in,
what the fuck it's all about, yo. Like I love that shit too. And this is why if Frank Sinatra was an asshole, I probably wouldn't pay him any mind. But like because I know those stories and those things, that's who I want to be. I want to be somebody who opens doors. I want to be somebody who believes in something and puts my arm around the people I love and moves forward. That's why I love making music with the people in this room. I love making music with I don't try to climb no ladder of like, yes, dude, of course I work hard to try to get in those larger circles, but at the end of the day, you know what is the best moment that I've had? The best moments I've had is when I've had a friend that I've had forever on my song, and then that one did really well and reached millions. And now I have a friend that's like has a song with over 1 million streams, and then their career can take off a little bit. It's like, let's go. That's what it's all about. I'm not trying to get on a fucking song with, all these people who's the flavor of the month. I'm trying to get on a song with Dre Aces, with Xavier, with fucking Malik, with like Avi, with my friends. Because if those songs all take off, we're all together on that shit.
Yeah.
So that's why, man, like, M with D12 and like ASAP and like ASAP Rocky with with TDE, Kendrick with TDE and Cole with Dreamville. It's like I love seeing that shit.
Yeah.
So
that's it. I talk about it all the time on the podcast. Everybody on podcasts, who's the guest, right? It's like it's not about that person and what they portray on the outside and all these accomplishments and their accolades. It's about who they are as a person. I love getting to talk to I say it all the time. I love putting my friends on the podcast.
Yeah.
I love talking to my friends, and it's funny. Like people, well, you won't get this many views, that many views. Fuck all that, dude. Because
those ones blow up.
Listen, and it's so crazy because the music industry out here in LA and things like that. Like any big city, Miami, I'm sure. But LA is so infamous for it. But
definitely
the fakeness, the fraudulent energy, and you experience it as you're growing up. But once you hit a point where you've done something that is recognizable by a lot of people, you start to realize and learn how it goes in that sense. Because when Reds took off, I noticed I started to meet a lot of people that were very ingenuine, like, "Oh, Red, you're my guy," this and that, and then you see that the energy is not genuine, and you can feel that from somebody not always, but a lot of the times you can feel it right when you meet them, or you can feel it. That energy is it's just something that is so profound.
You're right.
And I think in the music industry, it's got to be. I'm sure you've experienced that. It's just like the fakeness. Somebody says they're there for you.
Yes.
Then they turn their back.
Yeah, I feel bad because I empathize with it.
Yeah.
I empathize with the superficial vibe that has become synonymous with LA, and I empathize with it because I know how much it hurts to try to do something and come up short all the time. So what that does, and also when you're coming up, you don't get treated very well. Unfortunately, the people in the industry are very locked, closed doors, and no one's allowed in. And because of that, it creates cutthroat people. And so LA is filled with people who have come here from all over the world to follow their dreams and make their wildest dreams come true. And then some people are built for it and some people are not. And some people go a year and then they can't handle it, and then 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and they're grinding, and they're getting disrespected, and their pride's getting shot, and they're going, and then they hit their 30s and they're broke, and they feel like they're not enough. And so there's so many variables that turn the people that are going for it into motherfuckers. And I empathize with that. But that is an actual true thing. That's the type of people that you're interacting with. You're interacting with people who you don't know. They might be your best friend one minute, and they might stab you in the back the next. So, like, what's his name that says this? DMX says, trust people to be who they are. Trust a lion to be a lion, trust a snake to be a snake. And I kind of move with that mentality out here. I have a close group of friends. Even when I feel like I'm meeting a good friend in the music industry, I love them. I'm not someone who has to be like, oh, man, get the fuck away from me. It is what it is. But you might want something from me. I might want something from you. But it's not, I don't take it so serious because I know how driven people are and I know what they might do. I'm not that way. Maybe that's why it's taking me so long. But I know what they might do to just get an opportunity to get out of the fucking hell that they're going through.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because a lot of the times somebody will get screwed over by someone and then they're like, fuck that person, and they just write them off, right? But trying to think of it from a different perspective, or from the perspective of what you just said, like, I know how much people want it because I know how much I want it.
Yeah.
But the difference is I'm not willing to do what they did to me, to anybody else.
I don't care enough.
Yeah.
I don't care enough.
Because it's never worth doing that. It's never worth changing who you are. Yeah. And man, another thing, like, you'll see these people again. Like, it's interesting to me because to me, it's like, if you have the talent, if you have the drive, like, it's gonna happen. Like, to me, it's like you're gonna get there. So if you're screwing people over to get there, on the way, then the quicker you're gonna come.
I never understood I never understood that strategy though. Yeah. People who were like, it's like the same type of people, and no disrespect for anybody watching, but like, it's the same type of people that you wake up and you see like they're like trampling over each other on Black Friday, and you're like, bro, what are you doing? You want a fucking TV that bad? Like, shit, I empathize with people that are super broke and have been pushed to the edge. But like, that's what you want to do? That's where you want to be? Foot on a old like mom and like elbow to someone's ribs and just like, I want to take. Why? Why are we there? What are you that desperate? And maybe that's an unfound statement, an unfair statement for me to make, but there's no way.
No, but
there's no limit that I could be pushed to become that person.
No, 100%. But that's the thing is, I feel like that's just in somebody. I feel like if trust people to be who they are.
Yeah.
If that's who they are, that's who they are. But like,
you think so?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
I do.
I struggle with that.
I think so.
I struggle with that.
What? Wondering if they become like that
I don't
through the grapevine?
I don't want to think that people are just like have these nasty
sides to them.
But is it true?
I think people are who they are.
Yeah.
I think, but also people, it's interesting. People can develop into that person at that time, but maybe deep inside at one point they were different. Yeah. Maybe it's their experiences that led up to that point that turned them into what they are, But it's like the good-heartedness, and like for me, maybe it was because I was taught it. Maybe it's because my father and my mother, just like, it's all about making sure everybody else was okay and making sure that you're not. But like, just like being not trampling somebody else to get where you want to go is just in me. Like, I can't do that. I can't talk bad about somebody else in order to put myself in a position of getting above them. And I don't know if that's something. I don't know if that's something is just in people.
It's fair enough to.
Maybe it's both. Maybe it is your experiences, and maybe there's just some people that
could be both. It could be both. Yeah. But I think the most realistic thing is that the environment creates the person. Yeah. Like, no, seriously, because think about that. Think about if we were a couple of guys, and we're like in the streets right now, and we're fucking, we're 30 years old, and we're just like, baby mamas over here could barely afford formula for your baby. Like, there's hella shit going on. There's people trying to rob you every day. What am I going to be like? Oh, thank you very much. Now, fuck you. Bring me my bag.
Yeah.
That's what you become.
Yep.
So, like, I get why people get pushed to the edge. I get why you start operating in ways. I'm not talking about why people steal TVs on Black Friday. Yeah. I'm more talking about just, like, people having moments of being like, okay, I've had those moments in music where it's forced me to be cynical in ways that I wasn't before. I wasn't that way before. I wasn't cynical off the bat. The moment somebody tells me today, hey, this person talking about this, and I'll be like, no, they're not. And it's just a way to protect myself. It's a defense mechanism, because I've been told so many lies being a person in music. Thank God I'm making a living off of it, and I'm okay, like we're doing well. But there's still, I get angry out of the shit that I've had to deal with coming up.
Yeah.
People are shitty to you.
Yeah. And it's interesting to be someone, or to hear that, because to be someone who's not willing to step over everybody else and still have gone through that, that goes back to me thinking, man, it's just in you. You know, it's just in you. But there's also experiences prior to that, certain experience. So maybe those were what shaped it. And it's interesting to think about, but it's also important, I think, for people to do what you were just saying and almost empathize with it and say, wait a second, why did they do that?
Yeah.
Maybe something happened to them that caused them to be like this.
I think it's important for us to do that.
Because I wasn't always like that. I wasn't always able to.
Were you quick-tempered?
I was just very quick to judge and very quick to, and just so. Like I used to be like, this is a funny example, but like I used to skateboard, and I used to be like, there was this big thing about Bam Margera, and he's like, oh, he's not the best skater, like why is he so big?
Shout out
and
Bam,
like,
he records here,
bro, but he rips, you know. But like just back in the day, I was so like for so long, I was like, nah, this isn't good. Same with hip hop nowadays versus hip hop back when I was listening to it, you know, when I was younger and listening to it, like Crooked Eye, like that dude, like you're talking technical lyricism, like that guy is unfucking real, right? Unreal. And so like I don't know, everything is related, but it's just so calculated to me almost, like the way he rhymes each syllable or the first two here and then he finishes it. It's just
cares about the craft.
Interesting. He cares about the craft, and it's like. At one point, I was like, man, I ain't listening to this new school hip hop, whatever, fuck all that. And same with music, this house music now versus house music then, this and that. But then at some point, it kind of opened up, my perspective opened.
That's good.
It wasn't just in music. It wasn't just in those as other examples, but it was in everything. And I started to, in certain situations when I was treated a certain way by somebody, instead of getting frustrated, instead of getting mad about it, instead of reacting a way I would have in the past, I thought about why they might have been doing that.
Yeah,
and I was like, man, maybe they went through something that caused them to be like
that. I love that. I think we should encourage your viewers. Next time you're in a road rage incident, ask yourself, what just happened to this guy? What just happened? You know, maybe he had one of those fucking mornings where he just like woke up, stubbed his toe, you know, because it's little things that start it. And then his woman's bitching at him about how they're about to get evicted, and he gets fired, and then all of a sudden he pulls up to a stoplight, and you know you're right there, and you do something shitty, and he's like, "Fuck you," and he throws something at your car.
Yeah, that was the final straw.
Your first reaction is, "That guy sucks." Fuck yeah, you have to yell back, but it's like, damn, to be doing that, you gotta be going through some shit.
Yeah. So
that's good. That's good. I think we should I don't know. I think we should be more like that way.
Yeah, I think it would be.
Life's hard, man.
It is hard, and it's also not easy to be like that too. Like, and
no,
you know, but it develops over time, and if you can at least here and there, right. You just.
No, I just saw it. It was actually funny. I was on my way over here, and I don't know what this guy. Either he was on some pretty heavy painkillers, or he was like a wonderful human, because this guy moved into his lane and he like scraped his entire car, and then he sped off. I promise you, I just watched this. And he sped off. And the guy, I looked over next to me, like, is he going to chase him? And he's just like,
fuck it.
And he just kept driving one.
Yep.
This guy's great.
Yep. Got to be like that guy.
Got to be like that guy.
We got to be like that guy, exactly.
Fuck.
You know what, though? When it's interesting because I think a lot of this happened later, like when I was trying to push Reds and be successful at that. There were so many other factors going on that I had to worry about that actually were very... correlated to where I wanted to go and what I really had to worry about, like real problems, you know, like it makes other things seem little. And if you haven't gone through maybe some type of adversity or something like that prior, you may think that these little things are big deals. And then that can cause you to kind of lose your way. And then that's how I think. I'm like, oh, maybe that person it could have been all little things just adding up, but you know, whatever they went through, you know what? We're gonna move past this, you know, and that actually developing that helped me run a bar, and
it was dope.
It was
cool.
I
heard you guys killed it.
Oh man, it was nuts. There was a time where Reds was
wish I could have experienced that.
Oh man, I'll tell you what, we go to DJs. There's similar energy there. We'll have a good time.
We go to DJs.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Oh, we're going. But it was cool because the whole energy thing and creating the environment you want to be around. Reds was that, and it also had
that's dope.
A lot more meaning. Similar probably to how you feel about your music when you put a song out or when you hear somebody tell you how much it means to them and things like that. Like you created it by being true to you, and I was able to create that energy. We were all going through this crazy time in the pandemic and like all this limited. I mean, there were times I literally thought sometimes that the cops were going to come in and put me in handcuffs, take me out. I'm like, for letting people into my bar?
Right.
I'm like, this is insane, you know? But
absolutely.
It created a lot more meaning, and it became a lot more special because of that. And it was cool that it all kind of worked out when it kind of worked out, or it did work out, with me being true to myself. And I think that's so cool, very parallel to what happened with you and how your music took off and now taking off and still all this, being true to you and not listening to what people were saying, oh, you have to do this and that and this and that, and you're like, no, this is me. You know? And it's
for
cool.
sure.
It's cool when
That's
it works
what it's all
out
about,
that way.
man.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I want to go back to the Ill movement, your label.
Let's do it.
So, Ill, I Love Life.
Yes.
When did you decide to turn that saying, or the meaning of that saying to you, into this movement, into this label?
Yeah, I was living in North Oakland, 60th and San Pablo, with my brother Mike. We were in transitional periods of our life. He was still working as a server. I was too. I was working at this place called Trader Vic's, Polynesian spot on the Berkeley Marina, and he was working at the Grand nightclub in San Francisco. And we would come home every day. We'd be like, we got to do something bigger. Like we have all these skills, like we have all this ambition, like what are we going to turn this into? And we used to always say, Mike, my brother used to always say, it's a movement. We just got to keep moving. But he'd always turn it into, man, it's a movement. And we would get drunk sometimes and be like, it's a movement. And, you know, anytime we tried something new, you know, if I showed him a new song or he showed me like a new idea, he'd be like, let's go, it's the movement. And it was just kind of our little like mantra type thing. And so I loved that word. And I was one night just kind of one of those like dream like kind of 4 or 5 in the morning, trying to get creative, trying to kind of wait for that frequency to hit. And you're just like, and I hit. It's like that frequency, that radio frequency that Rick Rubin talks about, where it's like, boom, it opens up and you're just like, whoa, I'm on one right now. Like, I'm feeling like I can write for hours. I'm feeling like I have ideas. Let's go. Don't take advantage. Don't let this go. So I started asking myself, what do I stand for? What do I, if this thing did blow up like Strange Music or ASAP, what would I stand for? You know, what's the thing that I could like stand behind and be like, yeah, that's our shit. So I was just trying to think of words, and the only word that kept coming back to me was love. It's just the only thing that I would be good with now and forever. Like everything else might have felt like, I don't know, it's cool now, but how would I feel about that on my deathbed? There's no way that love is ever going to get out of date for me. It's always going to be about love, and it's always going to be about life. So I'm trying to make that work. And so Ill was like the perfect word because it was the name of the restaurant, Il Fornaio. It was an Italian word. Saying ill somebody meant calling them like sir. And I turned it into an acronym, I Love Life, and I wrote it on a whiteboard just like that. I said, man, Ill movement, I love that. Fuck it, I'll be Ill Nicky. Like ASAP.
Damn.
Like ASAP Rocky.
That's fucking
They're all ASAP.
fire.
And ASAP was an acronym.
Yes.
So hugely inspired by that. And I loved uniformity. I'm Catholic. I'm Italian Catholic. I loved uniformity. Mm-hmm. Just like, man, let's go. Like, you know. So there was a feeling of, I loved the idea that, you know, in my mind at the time, everybody after, you know, would have ill. It would be like, you know, it would be Ill Rob or Ill Sean or, you know, Ill Red. Yeah. But I think I slowly was like, nah, people got their own names, and that never took form. But we did stick with the Ill movement as the brand, and I really love how far we've come with it.
Yeah, and so when you started this, was your plan always to stay independent and make the success that you've had through that movement? Was that always the plan? Like, did you ever have any plans to sign to a major label?
I don't know. I didn't know anything. I picked up a book back around that time because I asked myself the same question, so I wanted to know what I was getting into. I knew I loved rap. I knew I loved music. I knew I loved writing. I knew I wanted to take this brand and maybe make something with it. So I was like, you know, what's the type of music I'm making? Let me learn about it a little bit more, you know, other than just what I liked at the time. So I bought this book called The Big Payback by Dan Charnas, and it was like my Bible. It's this thick. I actually, it's like the lamest thing about to say, but I actually got it signed by KRS-One one time because
let's fucking go.
Because there was this chapter. There was this chapter about Boogie Down and a chapter dedicated to him, and I told him that this was a book that really, you know, helped me see a lot of things clear, gave me a lot of clarity, and you know, anyway. so I was reading this book, and as I was reading it, I was like, oh, there's like all these different kind of ways to come up. So it gave me a lot of insight into like what the industry is, and you know, everyone's different story. Wu-Tang's story and how it's different from KRS-One's, or how it's different from M's or 50 Cent. So it's like, I think I always wanted the chaining day, the moment, the like, you fucking, you know, tonight, Nicky is signing with, blah, blah, and then someone, you know, someone like, you know, Dr. Dre puts the fucking chain on you, you're like, let's go. Because I watch those moments all the time. It gave me goosebumps when it happened to Kanye, and it happened to, you know, to all the big artists that would, of the time that I was watching, you know, that was always the moment. So I think I always dreamt of that, but I think slowly but surely I realized how little I wanted that, and how much I wanted to be somebody to build something that was more of a company, more of a business, more of a lifestyle brand. And I found a like mind in this asshole right here, in Sean and Don, and you know, we hit the ground running in San Diego, and you know, I think we kind of were birds of a feather in that way, where we were like, well, maybe we can do it ourselves. And you know, there was a lot of people I felt that looked up to us and the way that we did things, just because we didn't wait. We weren't asking questions. We weren't trying to get in here and be like, yo, can I sign with you? I was like, no, let's put our own shows on. Why not? Let's put our own merch out. Let's sell that. Let's make some money. Let's do things our way. I did it my way.
Well, and also like music nowadays, it's crazy to think, because even the era that you were coming up with, in, it was almost like that wasn't possible. Like, you had to sign to a major, and
you're right. Yeah, and for sure.
Like
that's
now
so true.
it's like now it's like you can, but it's interesting because you have that success. But you came up in an era almost where it wasn't possible. So it's cool to think about that concept.
That's a great fucking point, because I think there was we were right at that transitional period where the game was really changing. The game really changed when streaming came to be. But it took like years. They're still not getting it right how to pay artists out. You still see problems with that. So there's always like a lot of time that it takes when the game changes. But the game was changing in the way that marketing was being done when we were coming up. Bro, we literally, Instagram came out. Like, we saw Instagram come out, you know? My little niece, like, she's 14, and she be on it all day, and she's really good at it. But like, I remember when like Instagram came out. I posted my first thing, and I actually thinking about this, my first photo that I posted was me and my niece. But it was like that old filter, and she was fucking 3. And the reason I bring it up is because now, okay, you start to see these social media platforms come up, and the way that marketing is done is now different. You don't have to get on a big stage. You're right here. There's the window to the world right here on Instagram and on TikTok. And as these things were changing, like, you saw the business behind it change. You saw companies like United Masters come up. And it's like, oh, okay, these independent platforms that can kind of help me navigate where to go, get me major licensing deals, get me on big get me on NBA 2K. Without signing this predatory long-term 360 contract. So in a way, it was like we were very blessed, because the people of before, you're right, they had to get up. If they had any chance in hell, they had to sign whatever deal was in front of them just to get in front of somebody. What other option did you have?
You didn't. If you wanted to be in that
go
space,
around the world and busk. That was the only other option. So,
and it's interesting how it's all the marketing and everything, how it's all changed, and people will, certain songs go out because they think it'll go viral on TikTok. That'll make the artist, and the whole scope of it has changed, and it's cool to hear that you were like, no, I'm not going to go with that path. The ill movement, that's me, that's us, that's what we're going to do.
For sure.
And being influenced by a lot of people that came up in an era where that wasn't what they could do. It's interesting to think about that.
Absolutely.
So
and
cool.
And just to expand on it just a little more is, how marketing is done now is not marketing. It's how many things, like, okay, so there's PR and marketing firms now that create content that you would not know is selling you something. And it's going back to this, I don't want to be sold anything. So that is like, getting up and be like, hey, my song's out right now. I ain't going to do shit. You got to people want to come across they want to find it. That's where we're at. People want to find you. Don't tell them They don't want to be promoted to. So how great is that? Because that means that some big company over here can't jam someone down your throat.
Yeah.
I'm not going to listen to someone and follow somebody if I heard them 19,000 times on the radio.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to do the opposite. I'm actually never going to listen to a single album they ever drop. I'm going to do the opposite of what you want me to do because I fucking hate what you're doing to me.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to come across someone on TikTok that's in their room playing guitar.
Yeah.
I love this person. I want them to drop an album. I'd really love to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
And so that could be anything from comedy to music to anything. Is you have to allow people to come across you. And how do you create content like that? I'm still fucking learning. It's not easy, but...
And it changes every day.
It changes every day.
One thing that goes
But
one
that's what
week
it is.
won't go the next week. You
Yeah.
know? And it's just having the power to adapt. And it goes back to what you were saying before. We're all still figuring it out.
We're all
you
still
know?
figuring this thing out.
No matter what level of success. And
Yeah.
I literally, like I said, 250,000 monthly listeners. Now 40 plus million streams on Spotify.
Good God.
And you listen and you say it. You go, we're listening to you, that person say, I'm still figuring it out every single day.
Yes, because that's how it is. That's how it should be. If we feel like we have things figured out, I mean, that's probably indicative of somebody who's not evolving.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage that. It's like, is that uncomfortable? Yeah, it might be, but that's good. You should always be getting more and more traction with however you want to run this podcast, you know? By the way, I'm really enjoying this conversation.
This is awesome. I'm fucking,
So you're killing it.
absolutely fucking electric.
It's fucking electric.
As we fucking said,
Dialed in.
that's all day. Dialed.
So, but, you know, we are in very similar worlds.
Yes.
You know, it's the entertainment world. And you know, if you get 1 million views on this episode, or you get 1 million episodes on any, you know, I hope you don't take it to your head and be like, you know, one of two ways. It could either be it's never enough, or it could be like, oh, a million views, I ain't gotta talk to you. But you know, it's all of it. It's you know, that's great. That's a little win. We're gonna keep moving, and we're gonna do more with that.
Yes. Yeah.
So
and it's cool that you said that too, because I think a lot of people have the mindset of when they hit that, that's it. They'll have made it.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
It's like
what's
you
next?
got 1 million on that one. Cool. What's next? What's the next one gonna do?
keep building.
You know, and keep going.
Let's try
and then
something else.
it goes back to staying true to yourself. If you're gonna try to do something
Yeah.
exactly the same to get that, it's long-term success. You got to be you.
Yeah.
So
just enjoy it, man.
it's all parallel. It's cool when these podcasts happen and you talk throughout the conversation. You can kind of see the parallel between everything,
Yeah.
and it's all connected. It's
What
all
you're
one.
doing is a vehicle for me now more than ever. Because, I mean, what's the biggest thing? One of the biggest media platforms in the world is Joe Rogan. And that's a independent podcast. The guy is in his I don't even know where he is, but they're just free-forming conversations.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's now become, it has more subscribers than CNN. Is more of a media voice than some of the major channels that we grew up on. The game has changed. But now it's like independent podcasts. You guys are the bloodline for us. For me to be able to have a platform to be able to talk about my music and talk about who I am. So, you know, thank you.
Oh,
You know,
dude,
thank
come
you
on.
for doing this. Because,
Absolutely.
Because without you, without people like you doing these things, and this is why, you know, anybody that said, oh, everyone's got a podcast. Good.
Yeah.
I hope there becomes more.
Yes.
So there's more ways for me to get my music out there other than the same old fucking dusty things.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Damn, that's such a good point, dude.
Yeah.
So many good. This whole conversation, dude.
said it was gonna be electric.
Dude, I told. When I know. I've never been wrong. Never. So here we are. So, but before we wrap up, I want to know
What's going on with you next? Like, what's your next moves? I know you said you're doing a song every
Yeah.
month for 2023.
Yep.
What's going on with you? What's next?
So we just are about to prepare for a mini tour, the Back Home tour. So, you know, Back Home we dropped in July, and then we said in August we're going to kind of keep waterfalling music out, but it's all kind of part of this Back Home EP. And this was a great opportunity for me to really just like realign with what I love. Realign with my why, because in the beginning of the year, we went through hell and back with potential labels wanting to sign me. It wasn't right. It just wasn't the time, and it felt like it was really draining. And I really remember sitting in my room in March and really asking myself, do I want to keep doing this? You know, like I've done this for a while. Do I want to keep doing it? And you know, when I woke up in the morning, it was a resounding abso-fucking-lutely. I'm just getting started. You know, I've never been more fired up and more excited about what's to come. I honestly do just feel like we're just getting started, and I think I think at the time I just needed to realign with what I was making. I think it started to feel a little bit monotonous. And so when I made Back Home, that was the first song of being like, let me get back to my roots. Let me get back to what I want to talk about, my life, you know, where I came from, how long it's taken us, and how much we've been through, and like me with my family and my friends and my team, you know. This is the shit that matters. This is the shit that people got tattooed for. It's not the shit that I'm making, you know, platinum records and writing big hooks and things like this, or whoever I can get in, like whatever big thing I can say, whatever metric might make sense to me or mean something to me, what means something to the fan base and means something to the people that are inspired by what we're doing, are the ones that really like connect with the music, and they connect with the journey from the start. So Back Home is like huge for me. It's like I don't know, it's like my full circle, my next level of shit. I feel like, yo, like I had to go through all this to make this shit right now. And so for the next several months until the new year, we're putting out a song a month, maybe 2, we'll see, in some months, but it's all leading up to the Back Home EP and the Back Home tour. So we'll hit 5 to 6 cities of places where I grew up.
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, well, thank you so much for allowing us to be here
man.
in your studio, this conversation.
Yeah, this is Studio 403. Big shout out to our partner and producer, Billy and Coast. Big shout out to Sean Powers, my business partner here, Don. You know, we have a great room of guys here in 403, where we opened this place in 2019, right when I moved to LA, and it was a godsend. It was a godsend for us to be able to just have a creative space, and not only a creative space, but a way that we could bring people in. And we brought in so many of my good friends and amazing artists, from Rob Law, who just dropped an amazing record called Street Love, to Obvi, and all of our friends who continue to drop amazing music. So thanks for being here, because this is where I spend every day.
Let's fucking
This is where I'm at.
Absolutely. Well, dude, again, thank you so much for having us. Thank you for agreeing to do the pod.
This is dope, man.
Unbelievable conversation, dude.
Dope,
I had so much fun.
Me too, bro.
It was great
Thank
to
you
learn
so
your
much.
story.
I appreciate
Absolutely,
you, man.
bro.
Let's
Thank
go. Let's
you.
go to Reds.
Yo,
We'll
let's
go
go.
to Reds. Go to Cantors.
Yo, yeah. We're definitely in Cantors right fucking
Corned
now,
beef?
baby. All day. All day. Thank you. We
Thank
out.
you, man.
Let's go.
Electric.